Well, hello, everybody. This is Nanette Kennedy with Evo Revo and Humanities Team, and we are reading Neale Donald Walsch's Conversations with God, Book 3, and we are going to have Linda read to us. And as for reading, if you want, you can jot down notes or mark your pages, however you want to do that. And we are starting with chapter 15, which is like only a page long, or page and a half or something, 2 pages. We'll stop at the end of that chapter just to see if we want to say anything, because if we keep reading into 16 without stopping, we might forget those things we would like to talk about. So, all right, Linda.
Okay, so we're starting at the top of chapter 15, and this is actually God continuing speaking from chapter 14. So the very last thing he said in chapter 14 is every act is an act of self-definition. Everything you think, say, and do declares, this is who I am. Chapter 15. I want to tell you, my dearest children, that this matter of who is of great importance. Not only it sets the tone of your experience, but because it creates the nature of mine. All of your life, you have been told that God created you. I come now to tell you this: you are creating God. That is a massive rearrangement of your understanding, I know, and yet it is a necessary one for you if you are to go about the true work for which you came. This is holy work we are up to, you and I. This is sacred ground we walk. This is the path. In every moment, God expresses himself in, as, and through you. You are always at choice. Will she punish you for making
Linda, you are breaking up.
an internal guidance system that shows you the way home? This is the voice that speaks to you always of your highest choice, that places before you your grandest vision. All you need to do is heed that voice and not abandon the vision. Throughout your history, I've sent you teachers. During every day and time have my messengers brought you glad tidings of great joy. Holy scriptures have been written, and holy lives have been lived, that you might know of this eternal truth. You and I are one. Now again I send you scriptures. You are holding them, one of them in your hands. Now again I send you messengers, seeking to bring you the word of God. Will you listen to these words? Will you hear these messengers? Will you become one of them? That is the great question. That is the great invitation. That is the glorious decision. The world awaits your announcement, and you make that announcement with your life lived. The human race has no chance to lift itself from its own lowest thoughts until you lift yourself to your own highest ideas. Those ideas, expressed through you, as you, create the template, set the stage, serve as the model for the next level of human experience. You are the life and the way. The world will follow you. You are not at choice in this matter. It is the only matter in which you have no free choice. It is simply the way it is. Your world will follow your idea about yourself. Ever it has been, ever it will be. First comes your thought about yourself, then follows the outer world of physical manifestation. What you think, you create. What you create, you become. What you become, you express. What you express, you experience. What you experience, you are. And what you are, you think. And the circle is complete. The holy work in which you are engaged has really just begun. For now, at last, you understand what you're doing. It is you who have caused yourself to know this. You who have caused yourself to care. And you do care now more than ever before about who you really are. For now, at last, you see the whole picture. Who you are, who I am. You are defining God. I have sent you a blessed part of me into physical form that I might know myself experientially as all that I know myself to be conceptually. Life exists as a tool for God to turn concept into experience. It exists for you to do the same, for you are God doing this. I choose to recreate myself anew in every single moment. I choose to experience the grandest vision of the greatest vision I ever had about who I am. I have created you so that you might recreate me. This is our holy work. This is our greatest joy. This is our very reason for being.
Thank you. And welcome to whoever is 1855. Welcome to the call. It's good to have you here. Okay. One of the things that strikes me about this chapter is at the very beginning. And you know how sometimes we have such a hard time wrapping our head around what's on some of these pages, and where God says you are creating God. You know, years ago I might have said, no, I'm not. But because my own belief system has evolved over the years of who God is to me, and that she is not the God that, is fearful, or what some of the teachings I was raised with. But I have to tell you, I got lucky because I had Catholic light parents, and but still, my first reading of book 1 of Neil's, which was 20 years ago, I remember just reading him after page after page after page. And I'm thinking, well, that's what I think about God. That's what I think, and I just would say to myself, oh my God, I could have written that down, but I didn't. So anyway, I want to know if anybody wanted to respond to that.
Yeah, I do. When I miss these groups, I miss a lot of information. I was just telling Annette earlier that I really miss. I've missed like 3 Sundays now, Annette.
Yep.
About, and I really miss, like, I get messages more from God and the angels when I do watch this program, and I like to watch the program. And I'm so blessed 2 years ago when I was able to join this Evo Revo group, and I love it. Humanity's team is a wonderful dream team for me, and I get messages all the time from the angels, and I know a lot of it's passed through you guys. It's really great. We can all be messengers. We can all be God's messengers, and it comes in strange moments. It's really beautiful the way it happens. You can be doing the dishes or something, and you just get an answer to the problem that you've been working on maybe for years, maybe for 10 years. You've been thinking about, how can I solve this in my community? Or how can I get to this individual to make him shift, to make him turn against drugs and alcohol? So this is always perseverating in your brain. Like, how can I solve this as one individual? How can I solve this? And I really miss when I missed, especially 3 Sundays in a row. Those messages won't come to me. So I know how powerful this book group is, and I really love it. I learned so much here, and I do take notes. And like Annette was saying, when you don't take notes, it's like I was just before this happened, I was like, oh, I don't have my notebook. You know, I've been so busy. You know, so I just grabbed a piece of paper here. I'm using a yellow legal pad. You know, my mom's, you know, she was a private investigator. So, you know, and then my investigation thing, my mother always said, you gotta have paper and pen with you all the time, Kirsten. Don't ever know it, even if you have your purse. Always have a pen in there, a little pad of paper, so you can always take a license plate if you need it. You know, a little saying that somebody said. You can use a quote. You know, somebody said that at the coffee shop, and you don't have a pen, you don't have a piece of paper. So I just want to thank you all. I love you all very much.
Thank you. Well said.
Watch out.
Over.
Chris.
Oh, I wanted to say over.
Yeah. Okay.
Like the net does. I love that she says that. I connected with her because she said that. I'll mute myself now. Sorry. I
No worries.
digress. Am I off now?
Nope,
Am I still on or off?
you're on.
Sorry. Oh, okay.
Okay, I've got something to say to Kirsten. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. And Kirsten just put herself on mute.
Oh, okay. Well, all I wanted to say is, Kirsten, watch out, because with that yellow legal pad and the pen, you might be writing a new Conversations with God.
Exactly.
I can't
That's
hear you.
cute, Shabana.
Sorry, I wanted to answer that. I have 4 or 5 notebooks just like this, and most of my mother's. And I had journeys before my mother with my, you know, ex-boyfriend Otto. So I have notebooks from his journey, and that had to end. And I severed the ties with him spiritually. I had to go move on to this new journey that I'm on. So I'm writing my history, like Linda said. You write your own, you create yourself. You have to love yourself, and I'm learning how to do that. And I've learned it from Humanity's team. That's why I really, you know, it's not like I owe them or they owe me or anything like that. It's not what I'm saying. I'm not a walk on water, you know. But you know, I'm a human being like everybody else. But I struggle like everybody. But just don't dwell on it. Drop it. Like I like to say next. When I start perseverating and going around in circles and like my brain is spinning, I go next. Kirsten, you don't have time for this. Like today was a perfect. I actually messaged Annette earlier, and I said, look, I'm gonna have a really hard time coming to this group, but I really want to make it mandatory. I want to make it my mission today. And I said over. At the end, I said, please help me. Like,
Yep.
and she needed to physically help me, but I was just a reminder, like, you know that I have a hard time because I have a bunch of disabilities, and she knows all about it. You know, she knows me, so she knows that would have been a struggle. So she invited me in Messenger and to put all the information in Messenger because she knows that would be easier for me to connect because I have trouble connecting on Zoom and all this other stuff, and I had video problems and audio problems earlier. So it's solved, and the way to solve it, I guess, is just send me the links in Messenger. Beautiful. What a beautiful solution. Thank you, Nanette.
You're welcome.
It's so nice to have Kristen on the call. I've missed you. I wanted to say about this chapter that I think the challenging thing is that I think that there are people that have read this or that could read this, and without the proper framework and without the proper background and understanding, can take it and twist it into a statement of ego. And I just think that that's the danger of it. It can be misused.
I think so too. And I think you said it already. It's the context. And if you haven't read book 1, where you really get it laid out for you, because with book 1, you either keep reading the next books or you don't read any more of them.
Right.
It doesn't resonate. And the one thing I like about what Neil does in book 3, and he did a little bit in book 2, is God will say, well, now, we went over this before, but let me go over it again because it happens to be something that I have a little trouble with myself. Anne is having trouble. Need a pin. She doesn't have any internet. Well, you guys converse while I send her a pin for the phone because I can't multitask. Okay. And text messaging is my really, I don't know how my kids do it so fast, but they do. I'll be adding a response to my kids, and they'll, while I'm responding, they go, "Well, are you there?" Yeah, I got dear Michael. you know. Okay, so this number is 646 558. That's the wrong thing. See, I can't multitask. Okay. 947 835 602. All right. Anyway, I was just making the point that whenever God says, let me repeat this information to you, it's always something that I needed to have repeated to me anyway, or, a lot of the time. Over. Well, why don't we go on to chapter 16 since 15 was so skinny?
Okay.
Thank you, Linda.
Okay. Chapter 16. This is Neil speaking. I'm filled with awe and reverence at the reading of those words. Thank you for being here with me in this way. Thank you for being here with all of us. Well, you're welcome. Thank you for being here for me. Okay, so I just have a few remaining questions, some having to do with those evolved beings, and then I will allow myself to finish this dialogue. My beloved, you will never finish this dialogue, nor will you ever have to. Your conversation with God will go on forever. And now that you are actively engaged in it, that conversation will soon lead to friendship. All good conversations eventually lead to friendship. And soon your conversation with God will produce a friendship with God. I feel that. I feel that we've actually become friends. And as it happens in all relationships, that friendship, if it is nurtured, kindled, and allowed to grow, will produce at last a sense of communion. You will feel and experience yourself as being in communion with God. This will be a holy communion, for then we will speak as one. And so this dialogue is going to continue? Yes, always. And I don't have to say goodbye at the end of this book? You never have to say goodbye. You only have to say hello. You're marvelous. Do you know that? You are simply marvelous. And so are you, my son, and so are you, as are all my children everywhere. Do you have children everywhere? Of course. No, I mean literally everywhere. Is there life on other planets? Are your children elsewhere in the universe? Again, of course. Well, are these civilizations more advanced? Some of them, yes. In what way? Oh, well, in every way. Technologically, politically, socially, spiritually, physically, and psychologically. For instance, your penchant for, your insistence upon comparisons, and your constant need to categorize something as better or worse, or higher or lower, good or bad, demonstrates how far into duality you've fallen, how deeply into separation you've submerged. So in the more advanced civilizations, you do not observe these characteristics? And what do you mean by duality? Well, the level of a society's advancement is reflected invariably in the degree of its duality thinking. Social evolution is demonstrated by movement towards unity, not separation. Why? Why is unity such a yardstick? Well, because unity is the truth. Separation is the illusion. As long as society sees itself as separate, a series or a collection of separate units, it lives in the illusion. All of life on your planet is built on separation, separatism, based on duality. You imagine yourselves to be separate families or separate clans, gathered in separate neighborhoods or states, collected in separate nations or countries, comprising a separate world or planet. You imagine your world to be the only inhabited world in the universe. You imagine your nation to be the finest nation on earth. You imagine your state to be the best state in the nation, and your family to be the most wonderful in the state. Finally, you think that you are better than anyone else in your family. Oh, you claim you don't think any of this, but you act as if you do. Your true thoughts are reflected every day in your social decisions, your political conclusions, your religious determinations, your economic choices, and your individual selections of everything from friends to belief systems to your very relationship with God. That is me. You are so separate from me that you feel so separate from me that you imagine that I won't even talk to you. And so you are required to deny the veracity of your own experience. You experience that you and I are one, but you refuse to believe it. Thus, you are separate, not only from each other, but from your own truth. How can a person be separate from his or own truth? By ignoring it, by seeing it and denying it, or by changing it, twisting it, contorting it to fit a preconceived notion you have about what must be so. Take the question with which you started off here. You asked, is there life on other planets? I answered, of course. I said, of course, because the evidence is so obvious. It is so obvious that I'm surprised you would even ask the question. Yet this is how a person can be separate from his own truth. By looking truth in the eye so squarely he can't miss it, and then denying what he sees. Denial is the mechanism here, and nowhere is denial more insidious than in self-denial. You have spent a lifetime denying who and what you really are. It would be sad enough if you limited your denials to less personal things, such as your depletion of the ozone layer, your rape of old-growth forests, your horrible treatment of your young. But you are not content with denying all that you see around you. You won't rest until you deny all that you see within you as well. You see goodness and compassion within you, but you deny it. You see wisdom within you, but you deny it. You see infinite possibility within you, but you deny it. And you see and experience God within you, yet you deny it. You deny that I am within you, that I am you. And in this, you deny me, my rightful and obvious place. I have not and do not deny you. You admit that you're God? Well, I wouldn't say that. Exactly. And as I tell you this, before the cock crows, you will deny me 3 times. By your very thoughts, you will deny me. By your very words, you will deny me. And by your very actions, you will deny me. You know in your heart that I am with you, in you, that we are one, yet you deny me. Oh, some of you say I exist all right, but away from you, way out there somewhere. And the further away you imagine me to be, the further away you step from your own truth. As with so much else in life, from depletion of your planet's natural resources to the abuse of children in so many of your homes, you see it, but you don't believe it. But why? Why do we see and yet not believe? Well, because you are so caught up in the illusion. You are so deep in the illusion that you cannot see past it. Indeed, you must not for the illusion to continue. This is the divine dichotomy. You must deny me if you are continue seeking to become me. And that is what you are wanting to do. Yet you cannot become what you already are. So denial is important. It's a useful tool until it is not anymore. The master knows that denial is for those who are choosing to have the illusion continue. Acceptance is for those who choose now for the illusion to end. Acceptance, proclamation, demonstration. Those are the 3 steps to God. Acceptance of who and what you really are. Proclamation of it for all the world to hear. And demonstration in every way. Self-proclamation is always followed by demonstration. You will demonstrate yourself to be God, even as you now demonstrate what you think of yourself. Your whole life is a demonstration of that. Yet with this demonstration will come your greatest challenge. For the moment that you stop denying yourself, others will deny you. The moment you proclaim your oneness with God, others will proclaim your partnership with Satan. The moment you speak your highest truth, others will say you speak the lowest blasphemy. And as it happens with all masters who gently demonstrate their mastery, you will be both worshipped and reviled, elevated and denigrated, honored and crucified. Because while for you the cycle will be over, those who are still living in the illusion will not know what to make of you. Yeah, what will happen to me? I don't understand. I'm confused. I thought you said over and over that the illusion must go on, that the game must continue in order for there to be any game at all. Yes, I have said that, and it does. The game does go on, because 1 or 2 of you end the cycle of illusion. That does not end the game. Not for you, not for the other players. The game is not ended until all in all becomes one again. Even then, it is not ended. For in the moment of divine reunion, all with all, will the bliss be so magnificent, so intense, that I, we, you, will literally burst wide open with gladness, exploding with joy, and the cycle will begin all over again. It will never end, my child. The game will never end. For the game is life itself, and life is who we are. But what happens to the individual element, or part of all, as you call it, which rises to mastery, which achieves all knowing? Well, that master knows that only his part of the cycle is complete. She knows that only her experience of the illusion has ended. Now the master laughs, because the master sees the master plan. The master sees that even with her completion of the cycle, the game goes on, the experience continues. The master then also sees the role he may now play in the experience. The master's role is to lead others to mastery. And so the master continues to play, but in a new way and with new tools. For seeing the illusion allows the master to step outside of it. This the master will do from time to time when it suits his purpose and pleasure. Thus she proclaims and demonstrates her mastery, and he is called God, Goddess by others. When all in your race are led to mastery and achieve it, then your race as a whole for your race is a whole, will move easily through time and space. You will have mastered the laws of physics as you understood them, and you will seek to assist those belonging to other races and other civilizations in coming to mastery as well. Even as those other races and other civilizations are doing now with us? Exactly, precisely. And only when all the races of all the universe have achieved mastery, or as I would put it, only when all of me has known the oneness, will this part of the cycle end. You've put it wisely, for the cycle itself will never end, because the very beginning of this part of the cycle is the cycle itself. Bravo. Magnifico. You have understood. So yes, there is life on other planets, and yes, much of it is more advanced than your own. In what way? You really never did answer that question. Oh, yes, I did. I said in every way, technologically, politically, socially, spiritually, physically, physiologically. Yes, but give me some examples. Those are just statements so broad, they're meaningless to me. You know, I love your truth. It's not everyone who could look God in the eye and announce that what he's saying is meaningless. So, what are you going to do about it? Yes, exactly. You have the right attitude. Because, of course, you're right. You can challenge me, confront me, and call me into question as much as you want. And I'm not going to do a damn thing. I may, however, do a blessed thing, such as I'm doing here with this dialogue. Is this not a blessed event? Yes, it is. And many people have been helped by this. Millions of people are being touched by this. I know that. It's all a part of the master plan, the plan for how you become masters. We knew from the beginning that this trilogy would be a massive success, didn't you? Of course I did. Who do you suppose has made it such a success? Who do you imagine has caused those people who are reading this to have found their way to it? I tell you this, I know every person who will come to this material, and I know the reason each has been brought, and so do they. Now, the only question is, will they deny me again? Does that matter to you? Not in the least. My children will one day come back to me. It's not a question of whether, but of when. And so it may matter to them. Therefore, let those who have those ears to hear listen. Yes, well, we were talking about life on other planets, and you were about to give me some examples of how it is so much more advanced than life on Earth. Technologically, most other civilizations are far ahead of you. There are those which are behind you, so to speak, but not many. Most are far ahead of you. In what way? Give me an example. Okay, the weather. You don't seem to be able to control it. You can't even accurately predict it. You are therefore subject to its whims. Most worlds are not. The beings on most planets can control the local temperature, for example. They can? I thought temperature on a planet was a product of its distance from the sun, its atmosphere, etc. All those things establish the parameters. Within those parameters, much can be done. How so? In what way? By controlling the environment, by creating or failing to create certain conditions in the atmosphere. You see, it's not only a matter of where you are in relationship to the sun, but what you place between yourself and that sun. You have placed the most dangerous things in your atmosphere and taken out some of the most important, yet you are in denial about this. That is, most of you will not even admit it. Even when the finest minds among you prove beyond a doubt the damage you're doing, you will not acknowledge it. You will call the finest minds among you crazed and say that you know better. Or you say that these wise people only have an axe to grind, a point of view to validate, and their own interest to protect. Yet it is you who are grinding the axe. It is you who are seeking to validate a point of view, and it is you who are protecting your special interests. And your chief interest is yourself. Every evidence, no matter how scientific, no matter how demonstrable or compelling, will be denied if it violates your self-interest. Well, that's a really rather harsh statement, and I'm not sure it's true. Really. Now you're calling God a liar? Well, I wouldn't put it that way exactly. Do you know how long it has taken your nations to agree to simply stop poisoning the atmosphere with fluorocarbons? Yes, well, nothing. Why do you suppose it took so long? Never mind, I'll tell you. It took so long because to stop poisoning would cost many major companies a great deal of money. It took so long because it would cost many individual people their conveniences. It took so long because for years, people and nations chose to deny, needed to deny, the evidence in order to protect their interest in the status quo, in keeping things the way they are. Only when the rate of skin cancers increased alarmingly, only when the temperature began rising and the glaciers and the snow began melting and the oceans got warmer and the lakes and the rivers began flooding, did more of you begin to pay attention. Only when your own self-interest demanded it did you see the truth that your finest minds had been placing before you for years. Well, what's wrong with self-interest? I thought you said in book 1 that self-interest was the place to start. I did, and it is. Yet in other cultures and other societies on different planets, the definition of self-interest is much larger than it is in your world. It is very clear to enlightened creatures that what hurts one hurts many, and that what benefits the few must benefit the many, or ultimately it benefits no one. On your planet, it's just the opposite. What hurts one is ignored by the many, and what benefits the few is denied the many. This is because your definition of self-interest is very narrow, very reaching past the individual being to his loved ones, and to those only when they do his bidding. Yes, I said in book 1 that in all relationships, do what is in the best interests of the self. But I also said that when you see that in your what is in your highest interest, you will see that it is that which is also the highest interest of another. For you and the other are one. You and all others are one, and this is a level of knowing this that you have not attained. You're asking about advanced technologies, and I will tell you this. You cannot have advanced technologies in any beneficial way without advanced thinking. Advanced technology without advanced thought creates not advancement, but demise. You have already experienced that on your planet, and you are very nearly about to experience it again. What do you mean? What are you talking about? I'm saying that once before on your planet, you had reached the heights, beyond the heights really, to which you are now slowly climbing. You had a civilization on Earth more advanced than the one now existing, and it destroyed itself. Not only did it destroy itself, it nearly destroyed everything else as well. It did this because it did not know how to deal with the very technologies it had developed. Its technological evolution was so far ahead of its spiritual evolution that it wound up making technology its God. People worship technology and all that it would create and bring. And so they got all their unbridled technology brought, which was an unbridled disaster. They literally brought their world to an end. This all happened here on Earth? Yes. Are you talking about the lost city of Atlantis? Some of you have called it that. And Lemura, the land of Mu, that is also part of your mythology. So then it is true? We did get to that place before? Oh, beyond it, my friend, way beyond it. And we destroyed ourselves. Why are you surprised? You're doing the same thing now. I know we are. Will you tell us how we can stop? There are many books devoted to this subject. Most people ignore them. Give us one title. I promise we won't ignore it. Read The Last Hours of Ancient Sunset by a man named Thom Hartmann. Yes, I love that book. Good. Its messenger is inspired. Bring this book to the attention of the world. I will. It says everything that I would say here in answer to your last question. There is no need for me to rewrite that book through you. It contains a summary of many of the ways in which your Earth home is being damaged and ways that you can stop the ruination. So far, what the human race has been doing on this planet is not very smart. In fact, throughout this dialogue, you've described our species as primitive. Ever since you first made that remark, I've been wondering what it must be like living in a non-primitive culture. You say there are many societies or cultures in the universe. Yes. How many? A great many. Dozens? Hundreds? Thousands. Thousands? There are thousands of advanced civilizations? Yes, and there are other cultures more primitive than yours. What else marks a society as either primitive or advanced? Well, the degree to which it implements its own highest understandings. This is different from what you believe. You believe that a society should be called primitive or advanced based on how high its understandings are. But what good are the highest understandings if you do not implement them? The answer is they are no good at all. Indeed, they are dangerous. It is the mark of a primitive society to call regression progress. Your society has moved backward, not forward. Much of your world demonstrated more compassion 70 years ago than it does today. Some people are going to have a hard time hearing this. You say you are a non-judgmental God, yet some people feel judged and made wrong all over the place here. We've been over this before. If you say you want to go to Seattle and you're actually driving to San Jose, is the person of whom you're asking directions being judgmental if you're told you're heading in the wrong direction, that you won't get where you say you want to go? Calling us primitive is not simply giving directions. The word primitive is pejorative. Really? And yet you say you so admire primitive art, and certain music is often savored for its primitive qualities, to say nothing of certain women. Well, you're using wordplay now to change things around. No, not at all. I'm merely showing you that primitive is not necessarily pejorative. It is your judgment that makes it so. Primitive is merely descriptive. It simply says what is true. A certain thing is in the very early stages of development. It says nothing more than that. It says nothing about right or wrong. You add those meanings. I have not made you wrong here. I have merely described your culture as primitive. That word only sounds wrong if you have a judgment about being primitive. I have no judgment. Understand this. An assessment is not a judgment. It is merely an observation of what is. I want you to know that I love you. I have no judgments about you. I look at you and see only beauty and wonder, like that primitive art. Precisely. I hear your melody and feel only excitement, as with primitive music. You are understanding now. I feel the energy of your race as you would the energy of a man or a woman of primitive sensuality. And like you, I am aroused. Now, that is what is true about you and me. You do not disgust me. You do not disturb me. You do not even disappoint me. You arouse me. I am aroused to new possibilities, to new experiences yet to come. In you, I am awakened to new adventures and to the excitement of movement to new levels of magnificence. Far from disappointing me, you thrill me. I'm thrilled with the wonder of you. You think you are at the pinnacle of human development, and I tell you, you are just beginning. You have only just begun to experience your splendor. Your grandest ideas are as yet unexpressed, and your grandest vision unlived. But wait, look, notice. The days of your blossoming are at hand. The stalk has grown strong, and the petals are soon to open. And I tell you this, the beauty and the fragrance of your flowering shall fill the land, and you shall have your place in the garden of the gods.
That last bit gave me the chills. Thank you, Linda.
You're welcome.
This is definitely a chapter that I will be reading again, because we'll have to do most of our discussion next Sunday because it's 10 minutes away from the end of the hour. One of the things, those of you who are familiar with Wayne Dyer, Neil says, God says, as with so much else in life, from depletion of your planet's natural resources to the abuse of children in so many of your homes, you see it, but you don't believe it. But why? Why? Why do we see it and yet not believe? And God says, because you are so caught up in the illusion, you are so deep in the illusion that you cannot see past it. Indeed, you must not for the illusion. Indeed, you must not for the illusion to continue. This is the divine dichotomy. And then God goes on and said, you must deny me if you are to continue seeking to become me. And that is what you are wanting to do. Yet you cannot become what you already are. So denial is important. It is a useful tool. It reminds me of when Wayne Dyer used to say, instead of saying, I'll believe it when I see it, and Wayne would say, no, you've got that wrong. It's when you believe it is when you will see it. And so I thought about that. And we've talked on these calls several times about how when you're in step, and in the northern hemisphere, we're in the summertime, but you're outside and the greens look greener and the orange tiger lilies look more orange. And I mean, at least for me, I can't pass any of these things in nature without knowing the feeling that God is everywhere around me. Over if anybody else wants to comment. Hello.
I was thinking about the Last Hours of Ancient Sunlight that God recommends, which is an amazing book. I expect most of you have read it, but it's very much about us awakening us to saving nature. And it's something I'm going to look at again before we talk next time.
I have not read it. I do know who Tom Hartman is. He is incredible, very brilliant man. And he used to be on a talk radio show here in the United States. And every time I'd listen to him, he'd just blow me away because he's so intelligent. But all of our progressive radio stations have been bought up by, let's say, less than progressive. So the only kind of progressive radio you can get here now is NPR, or if you're paying for something like Sirius Radio, which don't do that. But I want to see if I can find something real quick here. Let's see. Okay. I may not be able to do this very quickly, but if I find it, it'll only take me a minute to read it. I think I found it. Okay, this is a poem by a gentleman named Drew Dellinger. And it's called What Did You Do Once You Knew? And I'm just going to read it real quick for you. It's 3:23 in the morning and I'm awake because my great-great-grandchildren won't let me sleep. My great-great-grandchildren ask me in dreams, what did you do while the planet was plundered? What did you do when the earth was unraveling? Surely you did something when the seasons started failing, as the mammals, reptiles, birds were all dying. Did you fill the streets with protests when democracy was stolen? What did you do once you knew? I'm riding home on the Colma train. I've got the voice of the Milky Way in my dreams. Teams of scientists feeding me data daily and pleading I immediately turn it into poetry. I want just this consciousness reached by people in range of secret frequencies contained in my speech. I am the desirous earth, equidistant to the underworld and the flesh of the stars. I am everything already lost. The moment the universe turns transparent and all the light shoots through the cosmos, I use words to instigate silence. I'm a hieroglyphic stairway in a buried Mayan city, suddenly exposed by a hurricane. A satellite circling Earth finds dinosaur bones in the Gobi Desert. I am telescopes that see back in time. I am the precession of the equinoxes, the magnetism of the spiraling sea. I am riding home on the Colma train with the voice of the Milky Way in my dreams. I am myth where violets blossom from blood like dying and rising gods. I am the boundary of time, soul encountering soul, and tongues of fire. It's 3:23 in the morning and I can't sleep because my great-great-grandchildren ask me in my dreams, what did you do while the earth was unraveling? I want just this consciousness reached by people in range of secret frequencies contained in my speech.
That's beautiful, Nanette. Wow.
I wish I could say I wrote it, but the first time I heard that somebody read it and it said, what did you do when you first knew? Because it was talking about, when we all first knew that our planet was in trouble. And I think that could be made for a very interesting conversation as part of next week's reading or discussion, because I'm sure we all did things, and it's a really important conversation to have, so that we can tell. I don't want to leave this place to my grandchildren the way it is right now, but what I can do is I can say to them, these are some of the things I was doing, and here's some of the things you can do. Because our kids, and I'm not even talking about young kids, I'm talking about young adults, 20s, 30s, who sometimes just feel hopeless, like there's nothing they can do. And but together I think we can figure that out. But this whole chapter about the higher developed beings made me think of that poem, and I'm glad I found it. So, anybody else want to? Go ahead, Sarah.
I was just saying thank you. It's just beautiful.
Oh, you're welcome. I will send it to those of you that are on the call, and you can just have it for your own reading. All right. Well, it's a minute before the hour. I want to thank everybody as usual, and thank you, Kirsten and Sarah and Shabana and Anne and Linda. And then there was somebody on the phone for most of the call, 1855. So I just want to thank everybody, and I'm glad we have this group, and love you all.
Love you all. Take good
Love
care.
you all.
Love you
Bye-bye.
too.
All my love.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.